Hi guys! Welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking about organic chemistry functional groups again, but it's kind of in a quiz format, and I'll be going along and showing you answers to a couple problems I thought were helpful. So I did want to touch really quick on what professors ask. They're going to usually ask one of three things for functional groups. So they're either going to ask you to find the functional groups. They'll give you this big carbon chain and you'll have to go in and circle them and name them. That's definitely going to be your most common way that they'll ask. They might be nice and they'll give you the functional group and you just have to name it. Or what I've been seeing a lot more lately is they'll give you the name or the condensed name and you'll have to draw it yourself. So let me set up a problem for you guys. And just so you know, if you need to pause the video or need more time, feel free to do so. So here is our first example. It's not too hard, but let me give you a hint. So your hint is that there are two groups in this molecule. And let me give you the answer as well. So the one on the left is our C triple bond N. And remember, sometimes they're not going to show that triple bond, so just know it is there if it's on the end and it's a nitrile. On the right, we have our ether molecule. Remember, this is just carbon, oxygen, carbon, or you might see it written as ROR. Let me get another example for you guys. Here's a little bit of a bigger example. I'll give you guys a little more time for this one. This is a little bit closer to what you might see on a test, and I wanted to include this because it's a trick problem, or trick question, that a lot of professors like to put on their exams. So here's going to be your answer. So remember, as we saw earlier, here's our ether. It's just carbon, oxygen, carbon. But on the right, the ester molecule tends to confuse a lot of people. You might look at it and you might think this is a ketone because you see that ketone, C double bond O. You might think it's an ether because you see that COC. But remember, if you have a ketone right next to an ether, or in other words, a carbon, double bond oxygen, next to another oxygen, that's an ester. This is its own thing, so just know that, because I've seen a lot of people get really tripped up and forget that. Here's molecule 3. I'm going to give you guys a hint for this one too. This one actually has 3 groups. I know it's got a lot going on, but there's only 3 groups. I figured that we could do this one together just so you guys can see how I would tackle this problem. So in the first one, we'll do this one in blue. So I bring my cursor in here, and let me just make sure we got color. Here we go, we got some color. So on a test, I'll ask you to circle and just write the name next to it. So this is that C triple bond C. This is an alkyne. Let me give us another color. Here's another one. This is an alcohol group in green. So these, if you know your functional groups, these can be easy points. So I really recommend studying up on these because this is probably what you're going to see on most standardized OChem exams. So this is our last group here, and again, this one was a little bit trickier. Let me circle it for you. So remember, this is an amide. They like to ask these groups because they can be kind of tricky and you might not remember when there's a nitrogen next to your double bond oxygen with the carbon. It does change. It's not just a ketone and it's not just a nitrile. Them together are an amide, so just don't forget that. Okay, here I have a quick check for you. Feel free to pause the video for a second and just give these a try. These are the most common ones that you're going to see. Okay, let me give you guys some answers. So we'll just go through and talk about them real quick. So the first one in the top left, we know that OH group is our alcohol, and remember we kind of said, oh, alcohol has OH right in it to help us remember. Amide is our next one. This is that one professors like to ask to get kind of tricky, so just be aware of this one. Next we have ether, which I've been pushing a lot just because those are pretty common too. Here, this ring might also be called a benzene or a aromatic ring, but I just used the term arene. I don't think your professor is going to get too upset about which term you use because they are all correct. Here we have our carboxylic acid. This is another really popular one. And then on the right we have an aldehyde. Now for this part I drew it out with the hydrogen, but I did it again on the bottom left to show you what it would probably look like in an example. So a lot of times they'll just put their aldehydes on the end of the molecule. They won't show the hydrogen. You'll just have to understand it's there. C triple bond again, we're really pushing on the nitriles because those come up all the time. And last, this one, just kind of an easier one. C double bond C, that's your alkenes. So let me set up another problem for you. So here's just the fill-in section. Let me get my red colored pen ready. Yeah, I figured I would just show you how I would draw these two, just to try to help out. So this I've been seeing a lot more on tests, is they'll give you the word and you have to draw it out. So remember, for carboxylic acid, it's going to look like our ketone attached to an alcohol. So this group together is now a carboxylic acid. And don't forget your R. I think that'll keep you in the good graces of the professor if you remember your R. Let me grab our green here. So amide is another one that I've really been trying to push for this video. Again, we're going to start with our ketone. Don't forget your R. And we add our nitrogen. You can add these R groups too. They're usually something you're going to see with an amide, so I would just add them. And let me get our blue. So alkynes are just your C, triple bond C. So, you know, hope that your professor asks those, because those aren't so bad. Okay, I have one more example for you guys. This is our kind of draw together again example. You know, I'll do these in blue. Let me turn the pen on. So, ROR, kind of like I said earlier, I've been seeing these more popular lately, is you'll get something like this, ROR, and you'll draw this. And you'll have to go, okay, this is an ether. So see how it's all the same information, they can present it in a lot of different ways, which is what makes organic chemistry tricky. So here's another one, R, OH, and again, this OH you can choose if you want to include the bond or not. I usually don't, just because I know this is an alcohol. But yeah, you might see the information like this, so just know that. And remember, there's an OH here, there's an OH here. And then last but not least is our R, C triple bond N. And this can look, well, it'd have to look like this because of the carbon 4 bond rule. So yes, this is a nitrile. And I did add a note down here, so if you're really struggling with what it could be, you can replace R with a carbon-carbon bond to visualize it better. So that's kind of what I was doing over here. Like, just picture bonds in between your oxygen and your letter R, or just pretend that they're carbon-carbon bonds, because remember, they can be anything. So hopefully these examples have helped you. This is probably what you would see. Now just know there are a couple more groups that I didn't go over. Phenols and alkyl halides are really the only thing I didn't go over. But most professors that I've talked to and that I've had don't really emphasize those anyways, so don't be too worried about those groups. If you can go through this entire video and do all these problems, you're going to be really set up to do well. So if you want, feel free to use this as a supplement for your studying. I just wanted to say thanks for watching and good luck studying.